Hello, distinguished listeners. My name is XuChang, and my matric number is P132605. This is the final presentation for the course Business, Ethics, and Governance. And today, I want to talk to you about a very important topic, which is internal whistleblowing policies and how we should act in the absence of such policies. First, I want to tell you a story. This is the story of a former student who seeks advice from his teacher, Professor Taylor. The former student, now a finance director at a small startup, was concerned that the company's CEO and CFO might be overstating sales and receivables when submitting financial statements to the bank. The former student learned the information from an accounts payback clerk who was instructed to record the CEO's handwriting sales notes, which accounted for nearly half of the company's first quarter sales. And the former student argued that it was a fraud because the sales were recorded before they took place. In fact, these so-called customers did not place orders with the company and did not receive the goods. Although the CEO and the CFO insist it's a common business practice, the former student remains skeptical. After the meeting with the bank immediately began financing the company's line of credit. The former student argued that the misreporting of earnings first appeared in the current quarter, while the previous year's audit financial statements were not incorrectly reported. He was considering how he should deal with the problem and asked Professor Taylor for advice. He wasn't sure if he was responsible for disclosing the false report of earnings to the outside world. One of his accountants has resigned over similar concerns. He was considering his options and was hoping that Professor Taylor could give him some advice. So the story is over and brings us to the topic we are going to discuss today. We can see at the screen is about internal whistleblowing policies. So if a company doesn't have an internal whistleblowing policy, how should we act? Other words, what other methods should be effective? In this case, he has three main options. And the first option is to report to a higher authority. This is a direct way to ensure that the problem is known to senior people within the company. This approach allows problems to be solved within the company without having to involve an external agency. However, this approach may not be effective if senior management already knows about the problem or if they are unwilling to address it, or in much worse situation, they are also involved in this fraud, then the problem may not be solved at all. And the second option is to report to the board. If the company has a board, the caller can report the problem to them. The advantage is that the board has a responsibility to protect the interests of the company and may conduct investigations into the actions of the CEO and the CFO. The downside is that if the board chooses to ignore the problem, then the problem may not resolved. A third option is to report to an external agency, such as an industry regulator or law enforcement agency. This can get public attention and may force the company to face the problem. If the company has an outside auditor, the caller can report the problem to them. And the advantage is that the external auditor has the responsibility to conduct an independent audit of the company's financial statements and may investigate such fraud. The downside is that this can expose the company to some legal risks and may even lead to the company going out of the business. This behavior takes time and money and may not solve the problem immediately, so it may not be the first choice. And otherwise, there is also some options of reporting to a regulatory authority. The callers can report the issue to the appropriate regulatory authority, such as the Securities and Exchange Commission or their local financial regulator. The advantage is that regulators have the power to investigate such fraud and potentially penalize the company. The downside is that this can expose the company to serious legal and financial risks, which can lead to retaliation against the caller in the workplace, especially if his or her identity is revealed to the public. So how do we establish a whistleblowing policy within our company? I think steps to establish an internal whistleblowing policy might including the follows. Let's look at the screen. The first is to develop a policy. First, companies need to develop a clear internal whistleblowing policy. This policy should clearly state how, when, and to whom employees can report potential fraud. The company then needs to set up a process for handling complaints, including investigating them, taking action, and reporting back to the whistleblower. The second one is about providing training. Companies need to provide training to all employees to ensure they understand the whistleblowing policy and their responsibilities. Let employees know the reporting policy, know how to report, and understand how seriously their company takes reporting. This may include online training, seminars, or in-person training. The next step is to establish a reporting channel. The company needs to establish one or more reporting channels, such as a hotline, an email address, or an online reporting platform. These channels should be secure, anonymous, and open. to reporting 24 hours a day. Through these channels, employees can anonymously report irregularities within the company. Fourth is about protecting whistleblowers. Companies need to ensure that whistleblowers are not subject to retaliation for their whistleblowing actions. This may require developing an anti-retaliation policy and ensuring that all employees are aware of this policy, which should include protection for whistleblowers to prevent them from being subjected to retaliation. And this way may encourage employees to do this thing because they know they can get protection from the company. The last point is follow-up investigations. Finally, companies need to ensure that all reports are properly followed up and investigated. The effectiveness of the whistleblowing policy is regularly reviewed and adjusted as needed. This may require setting up a dedicated investigative team or hiring outside experts to conduct the investigation. These steps can help companies and establish an effective internal whistleblowing mechanism that encourages employees to report misconduct while protecting whistleblowers from retaliation. Overall, internal whistleblowing policies are a very important tool to help companies detect and resolve misconduct. Internal whistleblowing policies are important to prevent fraud, protect the interests of the company, and safeguard the rights and the interests of employees. If the company does not have such a policy, employees may face a lot of confusion about what to do about the problems they find. And therefore, I strongly recommend that every company should have a clear, fair, and effective internal whistleblowing policy. However, we also need to recognize that establishing an internal whistleblowing policy is not an easy task. It requires the full support and commitment of the company and the determination and courage of the company's leadership to face the problems that may come to light. At the same time, employees also need to have the courage to come forward and report misconduct they find. Only then can internal whistleblowing policies truly work to help companies safeguard their reputation, protect their financial health, and most importantly, protect the rights of the employees. And at the very least, at companies with or without internal whistleblowing policies, we all have a responsibility to uphold the integrity and fairness of our companies. We should stand up and expose wrongdoing while also protecting ourselves from retaliation. Only in this way can we establish a justice, fair, transparent working environment. Oh, thank you so much. I hope my talk will be of some help to you. If you have any questions or would like to discuss them further, I will always welcome. Thank you for your listening. Goodbye.